Hey, welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about class design in Java, and we're going to start by looking at and making our first UML diagram. So UML stands for Unified Modeling Language, and I like to use this tool online at app.diagrams.net, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom here where it says UML. Okay, and then we'll open up that menu and we'll just grab this simple one here to get started. So UML has three boxes. That's the structure. The first box is always the class name. And we're going to create a class today that keeps track of information on students. So this will be a UML diagram for the student class. Okay, then the next field our next box is going to contain the instance variables or attributes for a student object in this class. And we put a plus in the front if we want this to be public access. We put a minus in the front if we want it to be private access, these variables. So I'm going to create a variable for name, and I have a minus in the front of it because it's going to be a private instance variable for the student class. Okay, and then after the name, the identifier for the variable, then we're going to put its data type, and that's going to be a string. Okay, at the edge here of this diagram, you'll see a little arrow when you hover over it, and that allows us to insert another space so that we can have another attribute. So things that we would keep track of regarding a student object. So we might have the student's age, and that would be the data type int. And then we'll have an attribute private, so a minus in front, and this will be graduated, and that would be a Boolean, right, whether or not the student has graduated. Okay, then we'll have one more, and we'll call this one gender, and that one can be defined as a char. Okay, so that's our second box. So first box in the UML diagram is the name of the class. Second box houses the attributes for the objects of that class. Those are the instance variables. Okay, now in our third box in the UML diagram, this is where we're going to list methods. These are functions that the object can perform in this class. So I'm going to have my method be public, so I put a plus in front of it, and I'll have one that's called, let's do get name, and then we'll insert another, and this one will have be set name. Then we'll also have get age, and then we'll have set age. And if you recall from our earlier lessons this year, the getter methods, they begin with the word get, and those are accessor methods. The only thing that that method will do is grab the instance variable's value and return it to the calling statement. The setter methods that begin with the word set, those are mutator methods. They're going to change the value of the instance variables. Okay, so we've got a set name, a set age. We might also have in our list of methods a toString. Because remember, if we want to print information about a student object, just the print statement on the object is going to return the hexadecimal memory address for that object. If we want to return information about the attributes of the object, then we need to override the toString method, and that will return then to the print call the information that we want it to return regarding the instance variable values. Okay, so this is obviously an unfinished template for the UML, but it gives us a blueprint or an outline, if you will, for the things that we want to include in a class regarding students. So let's come over here to JGrasp. And, oh, I cannot get this to be the size that I want it. Let's see if I can move this instead. There we go. Okay, so where'd my UML go? There we are. Okay, so what we're going to do in JGrasp is create this student class using this UML template. Okay, so we're going to need to create our class, so public class, and then the name of the class, and that comes directly from the first line in our UML diagram. Okay, then we're going to need a constructor for this class. The constructor is going to initialize the values of the instance variables, and those instance variables are going to be private. So we're going to declare private name, private string, and then name. We'll have private age, and that's going to be an int. Private, and then graduated is a Boolean. And we don't need it to be an object type Boolean, so we'll make this a lowercase b Boolean. And then private and char, and this will be the gender instance variable. So our constructor is the same name as the class, so public student, and we're going to pass to that constructor, let's see, we'll do the gender, so char initial gender, that'll get passed to the constructor by parameter, and then let's get I guess that's probably it. That's all we need is the gender of our new student that's going to enroll. Okay, so when the student enrolls, I'm going to take the gender instance variable and assign it the value passed by parameter, the initial gender. Now, if I call this constructor and I do not, oops, what is that? If I call this constructor and I do not assign values to the name, the age, or the graduation status, those are all going to become null or zero, depending on if they're primitive or object data types. So I'm going to assign the gender passed by parameter. Name will be null because that's an object data type. Age will be 0, and graduation status will be 0, which in a Boolean is false. So those, even though they're not explicitly stated in the constructor, they'll all be instantiated and assigned an initial value when the constructor is called. Okay, next, now that we've created our class name and assigned the attributes, we're going to go ahead and create the methods that we specified in the UML. So we'll have a public method, and this one is going to return a string, and it's called the getName method. Oh, whoops, I wanted this to have one of those. There we go. And all we're going to do in this method is return the name. Okay, simple, quick. We can even keep that on the same line as what we had before. Okay, we also put in our UML diagram that we wanted a method for getting the age. So we'll have a get age. That's going to return an int. And the int that it returns is going to be the age. Okay, next we're going to have a void method, public void, and this is going to be the set name method. Since it's void, it's not going to return anything, so we'll get rid of the return statement. Instead, we're going to pass by parameter the name, so we'll call it initial name, and then we're going to assign that to the instance variable called name. And then we'll copy that and we'll create the method that sets the age. So public void set age, and this one is going to pass in an int, and that int will be the initial age of the student, and then we're going to assign that age to the instance variable called age. Okay, so there's our first four methods that we needed for the class according to the UML. Okay, then lastly, we wanted to create a public toString method, and that is a return method, so that's going to return a string. We won't need any arguments for that one, but we will want to return the concatenation of the values of our instance variables. So let's return the name plus, and then we'll do a comma, and then a plus, followed by the age, and then we'll concatenate another comma, and then followed by gender. Oh, whoops, didn't want that. I needed, let's see what we have there, plus gender, and then we'll concatenate another comma, and then finally graduated. So now let's go ahead and save our file. And then we're going to go up to File, New, and create a runner or a driver, whichever you prefer. So this will be public class, and this will be our student runner. And this is where we're going to house the main method. So public static void main string args. And now in our main method of the runner, we're going to go ahead and call the constructor to create a student object. So we do that with the class name, student. Then this will be, we'll call this one student first, equals new keyword, and then student. And we're going to pass by parameter the, was it the gender, I believe, that we wanted to pass by parameter. So that's going to be, we'll say our first student is female. And then we've created the student called first. So now we can set the name by calling the set name method. So this will be Marion. Okay, then we can set the age of Marion. We'll say Marion is 17. So we pass an int to that method. And then let's go ahead and system.out.println, and we'll print information about our first student. And that's going to call the toString method from our class and output the concatenated instance variable values that we specified. So we'll go up here and save. Okay, and let's see if we need to do any debugging. Oh, there we go. We didn't have any errors to debug. So there's Marion's name. She's 17, female, and her graduation status is currently false. Okay, now if I wanted to create another student, okay, I could come down here, we'll copy and paste, and now my new student, this will be second. And let's say our second student is male. Name is Josiah, age is 15, and then we'll print our second student's information. So we'll go ahead and compile the changes and run. Did it run? Let's try it again. Oh, there we go. Okay, so our second student, we've got student second equals new student, and name came in as false. So why did name come in? Oh, because I didn't change this. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I forgot to change first to second. So notice that the name came in as null and the age came in as 0 because those instance variables were assigned when we called the constructor, right? Null and 0 respectively for name and age. Right? If I want the actual values that I intended to be there, I need to change this from the first to the second student. There we go. Okay, and now we should get the correct data associated with the student we intended. So now we'll go ahead and run. And there we go. There's Marion, 17, female, false, and Josiah, 15, male, and false. Okay, so there we constructed a class and a runner using our UML as a guide. So if we come back over here and look at our methods, just to remind everybody what the UML is, right? We've got fields in the instance variables. These are the attributes of the student object, and they include after the colon the data type. The minus means that those are private access. The plus tells us these are public access, and these are the methods that come in the third box down. And we've got two getter, two setter, and a toString method. Now, one thing I forgot when I set up my UML is that when we pass a value by parameter to the calling method, so set name is being called and we're passing a string there, that really should be indicated in our UML. So I'm going to go in here, and in the parentheses I'm going to say that we're going to pass the name, and we'll call that the initial name, and then a colon and the data type for that, which is a string. Okay, same thing here for set age, right? We pass in the initial age, a colon, and then the data type for that input, and that is going to be the, oops, I didn't want that arrow there. Let's see if I can undo that. Okay, so we want to make this bubble a little bigger. There we go. That's better. Oh, now I made that one too big. Okay, so now you can see which methods receive information, right? These methods are going to have arguments, so information will be passed by parameter into that argument, and which ones do not. So that was the UML diagram we used as a blueprint to create our student class.